Hi, Terry Bowen, and I am going to give my final thoughts on this quarter of a life in prayer and my practice of the daily office. And I have to say that this process has been a difficult one for me, and part of that is because it raised questions for me every single week. And I'm still wondering why this process, why this practice, and I'm pondering this thought. Would the others not have allowed as much insight? Or would they have been something that I sailed through and thought, oh, this is just great, and not really learned as much as I learned through the office? I don't know why, but it picked me and I stuck with it, and I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad for the journey that I was on this year, or this quarter, I guess. You asked for us to speak theologically about what we learned about ourselves as human beings. And what I learned is that we are called to community. And that's why everybody I believe in my group craved community and noticed it. I also learned that God created us humans uniquely, and we all have different desires, and I loved where we had to try to discern the desires that God had placed in us from the moment we were created. And so I am thankful for that. But we have different desires and different emotions and needs and ways of thinking. Um, and I'll talk about later what I learned about God through that. A human, I learned that attitude is everything. The success or failure of something that I'm doing really does depend on my attitude. And if I don't come with a good attitude, it's not going to be good. And if I think something's going to be bad and that's how I approach it, then it probably will be. And so I learned that attitude is everything, and that was really helpful. However, there's also the part that I need to bring my full self in prayer, and that was probably more evident this time than it has been to me in the past. I need to bring my questions and my doubts and my fears and everything about me, my confidence, my ego, everything. And that is when I am fully myself and fully authentic. That is usually where I find God more often. So you asked about what did we learn about God through this process. And I really liked at the very beginning when we were intentional about how do we see God throughout the day, throughout our prayers. What do we notice that we notice then about God? I liked that. So that was just a really good practice for me. So what did I learn about God? First of all the things I learned about being a human, I realized I learned about God. God is unique, and such a mystery. And so my battery's going dead. And so and yet if we are all created by God and each of us is divine and we have the divine breath of God, and I believe we do, and I believe that we are, then God is as unique as all of us individually and collectively. And also, if we have such a need to be in community, then God has also a need to be in community with us. And so that I thought was pretty important. You know, I have to say that there were times throughout this process that I felt confused, I felt isolated. However, through all of it, I didn't feel alone. And I know that God was with me, that God will be with me, God will be with all of us. And to be able to rely on that is so special. So I think that is a great thing. God does care about our decisions. I felt like I already talked about it, but the exercise of going in and seeing what the desires of our heart were that God created and that God put there, I thought was so special. And I plan on incorporating that into my spiritual life when I'm with other people and having them do that exercise as well. And so I do appreciate that. And I'm going to continue to do that exercise um, to discover the divine in me. So that is about it. I do I did write down that while thinking about God and humans, we are linked. I can see God in others, and more importantly, because it's hard to do sometimes, I can see God in myself. With this practice, I learned that there are rhythms that are important and need to be paid attention to. And so the rhythm of life and prayer being a part of it is a good thing. So thank you so much for a wonderful quarter, and I hope to see you around. Thank you. Bye. You know what? I want to say one more thing. I do plan on doing another prayer practice for the next 10 weeks and seeing and continuing this life that I have learned. So thank you for that too.